What's up, it's Tom. Thanks for clicking on this video. Twin case you missed it, the Minnesota Twins made a trade recently. Not exactly a blockbuster, but we've got a new Twins minor leaguer to talk about, and we don't have to watch Jorge Alcala try to put it together anymore. So you see here Chris Cotillo reporting. This was kind of a combo report. Lots of other reporters in on this as well, that Alcala was traded for Andy Lugo, a Red Sox minor leaguer. Let's take a look at some highlights of him real quick. You've probably seen this one if you looked at anything with Andy Lugo. This bat flip. Oh my God. To walk it off in the bottom of the 12th. He also does a jersey flip here just to make it extra exclamation point on that. So yeah, a guy who's pretty hyped up here. That's a really fun highlight. Maybe the best bat flip of all time? I don't know. I don't know that I've ever seen one better than that. But this was huge because this was earlier in this game. You probably haven't seen this. Game 7-6 game in the bottom of the 8th. He hits a game-tying home run. This was in the same game as the bat flip. Probably the fastest go around the bases I've ever seen. The fastest homer trot I've ever seen, probably, too. So Andy Lugo had quite the night that evening. Got to wear the mascot head as the home run celebration. Like, come on, you gotta love this guy. Some other highlights for you here. You know, as far as like how I would wrap up Andy Lugo, though, is he's the type of prospect you would imagine the Twins would get for Jorge Alcala, to be completely honest, to kind of bring us back down to earth after the Andy Lugo hype train that was that game. But, you know, a guy who doesn't have completely without intrigue. This is a guy who has some skills, a guy who has some intrigue, kind of like Jorge Alcala, you could say, in a way. He's kind of a project. There's some things to like there. There's some things to be kind of a little worried about. Here's a little bit of him playing third base just to show you. We'll talk about, he's played all over the field so far in his minor league career. We'll take a look at a little bit of that in a moment. So yeah, Andy Lugo, there's a look at the man coming over to the Twins. He's joining the Cedar Rapids Colonels. That's a pretty stacked roster right now, but so it'll be interesting to see how they use him. But here's how he's hit over the years. In 2023, he missed that entire year with an injury. I think it was a leg injury. So that's why no stats in 2023. But as you see there, a 758 OPS in 44 games in high A. So the equivalent of Cedar Rapids. 4 home runs, which we saw all of those. 4 steals. Both his strikeout rate and his walk rate are pretty, unspectacular. Nothing out of the ordinary with either of those. So yeah, Andy Lugo. And then in the field, this is kind of interesting. In 2024, between two levels, played quite a bit all over the place. Played 52 games in outfield, though. 24 games at third, 14 at second, and then has primarily been mixing in at first base so far this year with some third base mixed in there. And he kind of, at first base, he kind of looks like a guy who hasn't played a lot of first, and he just doesn't feel like a guy who fits at first. There's just a lot of times in the lower minors, there's not a lot of guys who are like a natural first baseman on a team. Sometimes you just end up with a lot more, guys who are outfielders, second base, third baseman, not good enough to play shortstop, not good enough to play center field, but, kind of in that other bucket, but, and they kind of just gravitate over to first base. It kind of feels like more of what has been the case with him rather than he's been like he can't play anything other than first base. So it'll be interesting to see how he's used in Cedar Rapids. Maybe more of the same, maybe some more first base. But, on to Alcala, wishing him the best, but he kind of failed this litmus test that I have now for right-handed relievers. You have to be on what I kind of refer to as the A side of the bullpen. If you're not in the A tier of the bullpen, that's not helping you as a right-handed reliever. If you can't throw multiple innings, which they tried that a lot with Jorge Alcala, but he doesn't really fit that mold really all that well either. And then if you can't be sent down to the minors, which at this point in his career, Alcala has enough service time that he can reject an assignment down, so he can't do that either. So he was expendable. And of course, he wasn't really pitching well anyway. Taking a little quick look at his numbers, an 8.88 ERA and a 13.2 walk percentage. I mean, we don't really have to analyze this much deeper to try to figure out why the Twins traded him. There's certainly reasons why Boston would be interested in acquiring him because he has a great arm. But the same thing, just kind of thinking back to Jorge Alcala and how long I've been watching this guy pitch, something that just I've come back to that has never gone away, even with him as a starting pitcher in the minor leagues, going back that far. Always was interested in his arm talent, but this has been something that's been an issue for him forever, for as long as I can remember. He has been terrible anytime he lets runners on base. He cannot stop the bleeding. And you look at, this is Jorge Alcala's entire MLB career versus just the 2025 MLB average. These are both big samples, though, both of these. He is better, much better than average with bases empty over his career. But then as soon as he lets runners on, and especially when he has runners in scoring position, the script flips. These are OPSs in case you were wondering what these numbers are. So, and again, this was something that plagued him as a starting pitcher in the minors. He would cruise through like 3 innings and just be dominating. And then all of a sudden, one little hiccup happens and he would completely fall apart and just a huge inning would happen. And that's kind of been the same for him as a reliever as well. So you can only point to the arm talent for so long and hold on to that and expect it to blossom. And it might still. There's been plenty of relief pitchers who have peaked beyond their age 29 season, and maybe that's what's going to be Jorge Alcala. But at this point, if it happens, you just shrug and say, it didn't seem like it was ever going to happen here. So farewell, Jorge Alcala. Welcome in Andy Lugo. Encourage you to bat flip like crazy and have all sorts of fun while you're here. Thank you so much for checking this one out. I really appreciate you. We'll talk again soon.